So I've just been recording a podcast with Alan and Mike from the Urban Homesteading UK podcast. They're fast becoming very good friends. And Alan, you'll have seen on this show, he's the one who did the soap making for me and the wax wraps, among other things. Well, we were recording for a little bit longer than I was expecting, and my wife and I had planned to move some of our hens today, and she's gone out without me, so I'm getting ready as quick as I possibly can to go and catch her up in the garden. So you saw us move the hens, and the problem is one of the sets of hens that we moved them onto a piece of ground that is just taking our property slopes up to down that way, and for some reason they seem to be in a hot spot for water, for rainwater runoff that's just sitting where they are and puddling, and I think they've already turned all the area they had access to mud, basically. So we're trying to give them some fresh ground. The plan was we were going to move the trailer, all of us, including the children, but my wife might have abandoned that idea because I wasn't available. Let's see. Look, you can see these poor girls, they've been on this ground for just 7 days. And it's a mud bath. Poor girls. So what my wife and kids have done amazingly while I've been in the bedroom recording a podcast is rig up all this, so they've got probably access to the same amount of space again, but off of that horrible mud, and they'll be able to come through into this. We're not going to go for moving the trailer, love?
Well, I was going to, but I was on my own and I couldn't bear anymore. So.
Okay, so what's the plan? We're going to move it next weekend or something, or?
Yeah.
So the original plan, we were going to move the trailer and put them on some fresh ground, but because my wife wasn't sure how long I was going to be, and we've got lots of other things we need to get done, she's amazingly, with my boys' help, come out and rigged up this extra bit of run, so they're going to have all this to get onto, and we're going to give them a ramp or something so they don't have to go on the mud at all. And then what we'll do, because this is, a similar amount of space to what they've already got, so it's probably not going to take them that long to churn this up, we're going to put them in here, but because everyone's off school now, it's the Christmas holidays, we're going to be able to come and move them again in a few days. So but because this is already rigged up, we're going to do this bit, and then I'll keep them going for another few days at least with some decent ground. This is just scaffolding net.
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought it was fruit net. I was like, I didn't think you had to...
No, this was used on a construction job and left behind.
Somebody said it on one of your videos.
Yeah, someone said in the comments on one of my videos that they've bought a load of this from Screwfix, 50 metres by 4 metres or something like that. Well, I didn't buy this. This was just left over on a job, but it is available to be bought. And my wife's quite pleased with it. It's obviously tougher than the netting we used here, but I think the sooner we can get them off this mud, the happier everyone will be. I was given the green light to return to light duties at work, so I've spent the last few days on a building site doing really small stuff, putting some glazing in some windows, fitting a few skirting boards, not lifting anything heavy. I still have very reduced movement in my wrist, and it's still quite swollen, but it's a relief to be able to get back and do something a little bit more productive. As a result, I've not been able to get much done around here, and I've not made any videos, and construction sites shut down for 2 weeks over Christmas, so now I'm back and I've got lots of catching up to do. So once we've done this, I've got to go and buy some goat feed. I've got to organise a new delivery of hay because we're almost out here. But what I'm going to do right now is take some of this old baling twine, which is just really, really strong string. And it's what the bales come tied in, and every farmer you've ever met will have used it for a million different things. And we're going to use it to make some quick guy ropes for our netting, just to hold the top of the net out, and then we'll just peg that in the ground with some bits of tree, little twigs we'll use as pegs. When we're putting the pegs in, I'm going to use smaller stuff, because if they get left behind, I want them to be of a size that the mower's not going to have too much trouble dealing with them. So we've pegged it all out, and hasn't taken them long to find the new ground. Look, bless them.
I'm not sure how good they are at balance.
Oh, they'll figure it out with a bit of wing flapping.
I had to pull it out the ground so you could get in. I've got a zip tie.
Not too bad, look.
Tied up with the thread. Mum, you might need to put one over here.
I need a zip tie there. Do you want to put this stuff in?
That's what I
Oh,
do.
actually, no. You need to do that
So much better. Again, this isn't going to last very long. This is going to last a week or so. So next weekend at the latest, we'll be out here and we'll be doing a proper move. One of the issues I've got, our ground undulates. I've explained this to you before. It goes like that in furrows, and this all down through here, everywhere we're looking, is all in a depression. So literally where I'm walking now, you can probably hear. And then just over to the side where we're up a bit higher. So what I'm trying to explain, I cannot get the car up through here. I probably would, but I'd churn all this up something horrendous. And every trough that I went in, as I got the car round there, I'd cause a hell of a mess, because we've had a lot of water in the last few days. So we're gonna have to move it by hand. So when we move it in a week's time, we're gonna move it. So this section here that I'm showing you with my finger, this section on this side is on a raised bit. And everything to the right of my hand there is in a trough. So we're going to try and put them out into this space here. So if I show you, look here where I'm stood, perfectly fine. But if I go down into here, can you hear the difference? And then as I come up, it's perfectly dry. It's a quirk of the ground. This is a medieval site. So these troughs and furrows part of an old medieval farming system where peasants would be allocated a strip of land. I've explained this once before, and the way they would work the land with their ploughs running up and down, they would push all the soil basically into the centre of their piece of their patch that they were given, and that's what formed this formation, right son?
Yeah.
Showing off a new haircut. That means that it's something that we're dealing with. Part of me would like to level it all, flatten it all off, but a bigger part of me thinks it's important to preserve the medieval groundworks, if you like, the the bit of history that's here. I'm sure at some point in the future, because we're only custodians here, we rent. I'm sure at some point in the future someone will probably develop here. They'll probably put 4 houses or more on this piece of ground. Unless we end up buying it. If we buy it in the future, then obviously that wouldn't happen. But I'm sure at some point in the future, because they're not protected in any way, they're not a protected or listed feature. So, anyone who owns the land could just flatten all this, but it won't be us anyway. All right, girls, I'm going to go and give you a little bit in a sec. Have the goats been fed, love? Okay, the goats have been done. So as soon as we finish here, I'm going to go off and get some feed. So we're all done here. Look how happy they are. So much happier. So we probably couldn't have picked a worse corner, and I think we were just in such a flap. If you watched when we were moving it, we had all sorts of problems, because normally we'd pull it with the tractor and the tractor wouldn't start, and we had all sorts of issues. But there were clues enough. Look at the bottom of that post. I had to replace that post this year. And here, see, that post is rotten out at the bottom. I've put a new one in next to it. Well, I should have known. I did know, and for whatever reason we missed it. But we all make mistakes. Right, that's all done. That's as good as we can do with them for now. Next stop for me will be to go and buy some animal feed. Hello, love. Yeah. I haven't forgotten you. I'll be coming back to do you shortly. So I've just been and got the feed, and one of the side effects of having our chickens in less space is it's costing a lot more to feed them now because they're not able to forage as much, and that's right across the board. So if you think about the Pekin bantams, the little chickens that we keep outside our kitchen here, they used to forage all this space, all this grass, and now they're in a couple of meters squared. They're going to exhaust the supply of forageable food and protein and bugs within that space really fast, and that is the same issue that's happening across all our hens, all the ones that we were showing you earlier. So a side effect of having them penned in a much smaller space is their feed costs are going to go up, and that's something we have to live with. My brother-in-law, Jackie's brother, buys chicken feed in bulk. He's got lots of hens, and he buys pallets of the layers pellets. So we tend to sort of go in with him, and we'll pick up 10 bags or so at a time now from him. And it just means that we get them at a much cheaper rate because we're buying them in bulk. But because we just needed a couple to keep us going till the next time that we get some from him, we just got 2 bags. And I've got 1 bag of layers pellets and 1 bag of mixed corn, which we just sort of cycle through, and we just give them a bit of mixed corn every now and again as a bit of a treat. So layers pellets, they contain a perfectly balanced mix of all the nutrients that the chickens need. So if you do have hens in a confined space, if you're not mixing your own feed, you might want to think about layers pellets, because although it sounds very commercial, and it is a commercial product, I'm sure it's a product that they use in most commercial egg production companies, but there's a reason for that, and it's because it contains everything your chickens need. So that's why it's the feed that we offer to them, because we know that whatever it is they're not able to get through forage or whatever else, we know that's got it in there. So we always make sure they've got that available, and a bit of mixed corn. And I've picked up some of the high yield goat feed that our goats need at the moment because they're pregnant, and we're just going to go and put this out into the bins that we keep near where we keep our animals. So my wife and I are halfway through distributing those bags, and we've just had our hay arrive. We buy it from a very local chap who produces it about a mile away, and provides it to us in small bales, and we buy 10 bales at a time. So Vaughn's just leaving, dropped off our hay here, and obviously I can't carry it because of my wrist. It's starting to sound like a bit of an excuse now, but my wife, as we know, is an incredible human being. And every time I order hay, I feel a little bit of a tug inside me that I should be making my own. But I'll just quickly talk to you, just really briefly, about the economics of it. So we pay £4 a bale. For me to produce this much would probably take, having had no experience, this is all a guess, but it would probably take a grass area. You see this lawn here? Maybe 3 times the size of this. So we've got grass areas that aren't lawns. We couldn't do it with the lawn because we wouldn't be able to get anything in there to cut it or anything. We'd have to do it all by hand. But we've got grass areas we could use, but we could probably make, I would say, between 10 and 20 bales like this a year with the spare grass areas that we don't have stock on. But the time involved in doing it for that amount, it would take literally days of labour, because we'd only make 10 bales at a time. So it would be 10 bales we'd make on what's called the first cut, 10 bales on the second cut. So for each cut, it would require us to cut the grass, allow it to grow, then cut the grass, and then while we've got dry weather, turn it several times and then bale it. And to bale it would require, well, to do all of those jobs, if you see it done commercially, they use extremely heavy equipment to do each of those phases. To do the cut, it wouldn't really be feasible with our lawnmower, so we'd have to have a different machine. Perhaps you could strim it, so that's one thing you could do, but imagine strimming that much ground, it's a day's work at least just to do that. Then you'd have to go out there and turn it. Now, turning it is something you could do by hand manually with a pitchfork. But again, time consuming, because you're going to have to do it several times over a period of days while it dries out. And then the actual baling itself. So you either need a baler or you can do it by hand by making this contraption, and I've seen it done, and it's something I might experiment with for fun and just so I've learned how to do it. But for us to do it as a way of saving money or becoming more self-sufficient, I don't believe is on the cards, because I can't make it all add up. The amount of time involved, and that's time in the peak period of milking and harvesting and growing and animal husbandry and egg collection and all that kind of thing, right when we've got the best sun. It's time that I'd spend doing that I wasn't spending doing other things, and that's before we even take into account my actual job, my paid work. So it just doesn't make sense when I can buy it at £4 a bale. It's just much more economically sensible for me to do that. Now, of course, you can make that argument for a lot of the things we do. I can probably buy carrots and onions for a more economical price once we figure my labour into it. But it's a bit different, because with this, I'm talking about the difference being so huge that it discounts it as a possibility. Whereas for the carrots and things like that, the difference isn't so huge. So those are the trade-offs that we're always juggling. Found a way I can help. I put the bale of hay over the wheel there. There's no weight on the handles, so I can help my wife move it without any undue pressure on my wrist. So that's the last of the hay now up here by our hay store, and everyone's been fed. The pigs got fed earlier by my wife before I was out. Goats are fed, chickens are all done, and you know, just the same as what I was saying about chickens, being able to keep the goats on this nice big pasture here also keeps their feed costs down, because most of what they're going to be eating is going to be growing out of the ground where they are. And as you know, we rotate between the two paddocks. So across the board, really, if you can give your animals plenty of space, they're going to be cheaper to feed, because they're going to find their own food. I can't really think of an animal where that doesn't apply. And, you know, that goes right out into the commercial world as well. It might be a more intensive way of producing meat and dairy and things. And that's probably why commercial growers, a lot of them, particularly in the States, you know, they don't have free-ranging cattle. They have cattle in feedlots, and then they have the feed grown elsewhere. But if you're doing it yourself, that's a more expensive way of doing it, because every time you've got to buy feed in versus grow your own, that's costing you money. But if you can have the animals actually on the ground where the feed is being grown, and then they're eating it straight off the ground, what that takes away is that processing, that hay baling that I was talking about. So we do as much of our own feed production here as we can for the goats and the sheep, but we do it in a way that they're managing, rather than us having to come in and do any extra steps. So there you go. I think that's going to wrap me up for today. We're going to be taking it easy over the next couple of weeks, over the Christmas period. So there might be a little bit of a reduction in content. I don't know. It's just going to be a case of we're going to do just what we feel like a little bit more often. We might have a few more days off, if you like. So who knows? It all depends on how things go. I might find myself out in the garden and filming more, or it might be less. But I'm just letting you guys know that there might not be quite such a regular feed of videos over the next couple of weeks, as we enjoy a really relaxed Christmas here at home as well. But I will definitely, I'm sure, be putting something out before Christmas. But just in case you don't catch it, I'll take this opportunity to wish you all a Merry Christmas, and I'll speak to you all soon.